All right, let's jump into another deep dive. This time we're getting into the mind of a crypto entrepreneur, kind of like eavesdropping on his strategy session.
Ooh, sounds juicy. Who's this entrepreneur and what kind of inside scoop are we talking about?
This guy is Morpheus thinks, and get this, our source material is a conversation he's having with an AI chatbot named Gemini. They're brainstorming about launching his token, 4IR, on multiple blockchains.
Hold on, an AI chatbot? Seriously, people are using those for business decisions now? I gotta hear.
Oh yeah, and it's fascinating to see how the AI weighs in on the different approaches and the challenges. Plus, the cool thing is, this isn't just some theoretical project. 4IR is already approved by French regulators, and it's trading on the Ethereum blockchain. We're talking real-world stuff here.
Wow, okay, so this Morpheus thinks he's not messing around. Regulatory approval is a big deal in the crypto world. Not everyone can pull that off.
Exactly, it adds a level of legitimacy that you don't often see. But Ethereum isn't enough for this guy. Morpheus thinks wants to go multi-chain, aiming for big names like Solana, Base, and BNB. Imagine reaching a huge audience and boosting liquidity.
Multi-chain is definitely the hot topic right now. It's all about accessibility and reaching a wider audience. More and more projects are realizing they need to break free from just one blockchain.
Makes sense. But logistically, how do you get a token from one chain to another? Like, what are the actual steps involved?
Well, the first thing Morpheus thinks explores is bridging. It basically means locking up the original tokens, in this case on Ethereum, and creating wrapped versions on other chains.
So if I have, let's say, some 4IR tokens on Ethereum, and they get wrapped to go to Solana, the original ones just vanish. What happens to them?
Not quite vanish, but think of it like this. You're depositing your 4IR tokens in a vault on Ethereum, super secure. And that vault gives you a receipt, a wrapped token that represents your deposit, and you can use that on Solana. They're pegged one-to-one with the original 4IR.
Okay, I'm kind of getting it. Like a claim ticket for your original token, but you can use that ticket on a different blockchain.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. But there's a catch. These bridges, they're not foolproof. Security is a big worry.
Oh yeah, you hear horror stories about bridge exploits and hackers. Definitely something to be cautious about.
Absolutely. Choosing a reliable bridge with top-notch security is crucial. Can't just pick any random one.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
So Morpheus thinks he's aware of these risks and starts thinking, maybe bridging isn't the best move. What if I just issue new 4IR tokens directly on each chain? What do you think?
Well, it sounds simpler at first, right? No more bridge worries. But then Gemini, the AI, chimes in and points out some major downsides.
Yeah, Gemini doesn't hold back, does it?
hmm
What are the issues with just issuing new tokens on each chain?
Well, you lose that unique identity of the 4IR token. Instead of one strong token, you have fragments all over, potentially with different values. It's like trying to build a brand with multiple versions of your product floating around.
Oh, I see the problem. It would get confusing fast, especially for someone new to crypto. Imagine seeing different versions of the same token with different prices.
Exactly. It could undermine the whole project. Plus, think about liquidity. Splitting your tokens across so many chains fragments it. It could actually hurt the token's growth and market reach.
Okay, Morpheus thinks is definitely realizing the complexity of this. So he shifts gears. Instead of 8 chains, he decides to focus on Solana. What makes Solana so special?
Well, it's known for being super fast with low transaction fees, which attracts a lot of users. It's also got a growing DeFi scene and a really active community.
Got it. So Solana, it is. But then he decides not to bridge existing 4IR tokens from Ethereum. Instead, he wants to issue a massive chunk of new tokens directly on Solana, like 777,777,777 of them. Talk about a bold move.
Bold, definitely. And this is where we get into derivative tokens. It's different from those wrapped tokens we were talking about with bridging.
Whoa, hold on. We had wrap tokens, now we've got derivative tokens. My head's spinning a little bit. What's the difference here?
Okay, so a wrapped token is basically just a stand-in for an existing token on a different chain. They're tied one-to-one. But a derivative token, it's like inspired by the original but exists on its own. It might have different tokenomics, different supply, even different use cases.
So it's like the original 4IR on Ethereum is like the parent company, and this new one on Solana, let's call it 4IR Sol, is like a separate subsidiary. Related, but independent.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where Morpheus thinks strategy gets really interesting. He's creating a whole new 4IR ecosystem on Solana. It's like a parallel universe.
This raises a big question for me, though. Why not just stick with the original 4IR and focus on building that up? What's the point of this 4IR Sol thing?
It's all about maximizing reach and having more flexibility. Having a separate 4IR on Solana allows him to tap into a new group of users, different investors, and tailor the tokenomics to fit Solana's unique vibe.
Okay, starting to see the potential here. But how do you even begin to value this new 4IR Sol token? It's not just a copy-paste of the original, right?
You're right, it's not a simple copy. Morpheus thinks has a plan for this. He wants to use the existing price of 4IR on Ethereum as a base and set a ratio of 1.7.77 between the Ethereum and Solana versions.
Wait, 1.7.77, that's oddly specific. How did he even come up with that number?
It's based on the current market prices. This ratio creates an interesting dynamic where users might move their tokens between chains to profit from any price differences.
Ah, so you're talking about arbitrage. People could buy 4IR on one chain where it's cheaper than sell it on the other where it's pricier. Classic crypto move.
Exactly. It helps to balance out prices between different exchanges, or in this case, different blockchains.
Pretty clever. But wouldn't that just lead to the prices eventually settling at that 1.7.77 ratio? What then?
It might, but remember, both 4IR and 4IR Sol will have their own ecosystems, their own use cases, their own demand, so their price relationship could fluctuate depending on what's happening in the market.
So there's an element of speculation, but also an opportunity for savvy users to profit from those price movements. Fascinating. But how would someone actually move their tokens between Ethereum and Solana to do that?
Well, that's where those bridges we were talking about come back into play. They'd be essential for moving tokens between the two chains.
Ah, so even though he's not bridging 4IR directly to create 4IR Sol, bridges would still be crucial for users who want to play the arbitrage game between the two.
Exactly. Bridges are like the connectors that allow different blockchains to talk to each other. And in this case, they're key for moving between 4IR on Ethereum and 4IR Sol on Solana.
This is getting complex, but I'm loving it. All these moving parts and potential strategies, it's mind-blowing.
It's definitely complex, and we're just scratching the surface. But the key takeaway here is that Morpheus thinks is building a whole ecosystem. It's not just launching tokens. It's about creating a web of interconnected platforms and applications, all using 4IR in different ways.
Now that's strategic thinking. This deep dive is already getting me a whole new perspective on crypto projects.
There's so much more to unpack than just the tokens themselves. The real excitement is in how they're being used and the bigger vision behind them.
Okay, so we've covered the how of this whole Solana expansion, but I'm still curious about the why. Like, what's the actual point of 4IR? What does it actually do?
That's where the utility comes in. Remember, 4IR isn't just some speculative token floating around. It's got real-world uses.
Right, you mentioned French regulators have already given it the green light. What exactly are they allowing it to be used for?
So the first thing they've launched is this platform called 4IR GPT. It's a knowledge-sharing platform all powered by AI.
4IR GPT.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Isn't it the one where users can share their knowledge and earn rewards?
That's the one. It's like a place where you can learn from experts in different fields or share your own insights and get rewarded for it.
Okay, so how does the 4IR token actually work within this whole setup?
Well, users can buy these things called 4IR credits, and they can use them to unlock premium features on 4IR GPT. For example, you could use credits to access these advanced AI-powered search tools.
So let's say I'm trying to learn about something complex like quantum computing, but I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
These AI tools can help me find the right resources and connect me with the right experts.
Exactly. They can help cut through all the clutter and find exactly what you need.
That's pretty neat. So you buy these 4IR credits to unlock the good stuff. What else can you do with them?
You can also earn 4IR credits by contributing valuable content to the platform. Imagine building a following and getting rewarded for sharing your knowledge with others.
That's a cool incentive. So you can either buy credits or earn them by being an active member of the community. What happens to the credits? Can you just cash them out?
Here's the interesting part. You can convert those 4IR credits into actual 4IR tokens. And you can do this on either Ethereum or Solana.
Aha, so the credits are like a bridge between using the platform and the value of the actual token itself.
Exactly. It connects the token's value to real-world usage.
And this is just their first application, right? They've got more in the works. What else is coming down the pipeline for 4IR?
They have 8 more applications in development, all designed to use the 4IR token in different ways. It's not just one thing, it's a whole ecosystem they're building.
Wow, Morpheus Things is really going all in on this 4IR token. But spreading yourself across so many different applications, isn't that a bit risky?
There's always risk when you're trying to do something new, but this multi-application approach has a lot of potential benefits as well. Each application can bring in new users and create different use cases for the token, which ultimately drives demand and increases its value.
So the more applications they build using 4IR, the more valuable the token could become. It's like a network effect within their own ecosystem.
Precisely. And don't forget the regulatory aspect. The fact that they have approval from French regulators adds legitimacy and trust, which is huge. We're seeing more and more regulated utility tokens, and it's a good sign for the whole industry.
This is all pretty exciting stuff, but my mind keeps going back to that decision to create a separate 4IR token on Solana. I'm still not entirely convinced why that was necessary. Couldn't they have just stuck with the original 4IR on Ethereum?
It might seem redundant at first glance, but remember, this derivative model has some unique advantages.
Like what specifically?
Well, for one, it allows Morpheus Thinks to tap into the strengths of both Ethereum and Solana. Ethereum is well known for its security and its established DeFi ecosystem, while Solana offers speed and low fees. Having a presence on both chains means they can appeal to a wider range of users with different preferences.
So someone who values security above all else might prefer to stay with 4IR on Ethereum, while someone who prioritizes speed and low fees might go for 4IR Sol on Solana.
Exactly. It gives users options and lets them choose the chain that best suits their needs.
That makes a lot of sense. But wouldn't having two separate tokens risk confusing the market? How do you make sure people understand that they're both part of the same ecosystem and share the same fundamental value?
That's where clear communication becomes absolutely essential. Morpheus Thinks and his team need to be super transparent about how the two tokens relate to each other and how they work together.
So no more cryptic crypto jargon.
Clarity is key. They need to educate users about this dual token model and explain the benefits of each chain. Transparency builds trust and prevents confusion in the market.
Makes sense. But even with clear communication, isn't it still a challenge to manage two separate tokens? Each one will have its own price fluctuations and its own market dynamics.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's not impossible. It requires careful monitoring of prices and a well-planned market-making strategy to make sure that both tokens have enough liquidity and stability.
So it's not just a set it and forget it approach. It requires active management and a deep understanding of how both the Ethereum and Solana markets work.
Absolutely. But the potential rewards are significant. If Morpheus Thinks can pull this off, he could create a really strong and successful ecosystem that connects two of the biggest blockchains in the world.
That's a pretty exciting prospect. It feels like we're witnessing a new era of multi-chain projects, and 4IR is leading the charge.
It's definitely a trend to watch. As blockchain technology keeps evolving, we're going to see even more creative approaches to cross-chain interoperability and tokenization.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about. I'm starting to see the bigger picture of what Morpheus Thinks is trying to do with 4IR. It's not just about creating a token, it's about building this whole ecosystem of interconnected applications and platforms that deliver real value to users.
And that's what sets 4IR apart from many other projects in the crypto space. It's not just about hype or speculation, it's about building something with real utility and a long-term vision.
Wow, this deep dive has been a wild ride.
Yeah.
It feels like we've gotten a crash course in Kempo strategy.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the level of thought and planning that goes into a project like this, from the technical nitty-gritty to the big picture vision.
But before we get lost in all the details, let's bring it back to you, the listener. What are your biggest takeaways from exploring 4IR? What's got you thinking?
What sparked your curiosity? What stood out to you?
I think for me, the most interesting part is how Morpheus Thinks is really challenging the status quo. He could have just bridged 4IR to other chains, the easy route, but he chose to go down a different path, this whole derivative token strategy.
Yeah, I agree. That shows real ambition and a strong vision for the project. He's not just following the crowd, he's carving his own way. It's exciting to see.
It's a good reminder that, whether it's crypto or anything else, real innovation comes from thinking outside the box and not being afraid to question how things are usually done.
Totally. It's about finding the strengths and weaknesses of each approach and then choosing the one that best fits your goals.
Speaking of goals, what do you think Morpheus Thinks is ultimately trying to achieve with 4IR? What's the end game here?
I think he's aiming for something much bigger than just a successful token. He's building a whole ecosystem, a network of platforms and applications that all use 4IR.
Like creating a whole mini economy within the crypto world, where 4IR is the fuel that powers innovation and collaboration.
Exactly, and that's where the real potential is. If he can pull this off, 4IR could become a fundamental building block of a whole new digital economy.
Now, that's a powerful idea. Okay, let's go back to that key decision. Bridging 4IR, or focusing on the Solana derivative strategy, if you or Morpheus thinks, what would you choose?
Oh, that's a tough one. Both have their pros and cons. It really depends on your risk tolerance, who you're targeting, and your long-term vision.
It's like a business school case study. There's no single right answer. The best choice is the one that fits the project.
Right, and that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting. It's not about finding the right answer. It's about exploring the possibilities, understanding the trade-offs, and seeing the strategy behind these complex decisions.
Well said. For our listeners who are now super curious about 4IR and want to dive deeper themselves, where should they go?
The 4IR white paper is the best place to start. It goes deep into the project's vision, the technology, and the tokenomics. We'll have a link in the show notes.
Maybe this deep dive even sparked some ideas for your own projects. Whether you're a crypto pro or just starting out, there's always something new to learn in this space.
That's the beauty of it. Crypto is constantly changing. There are endless possibilities for creativity and innovation.
And that wraps up another deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those tough questions.